Hello guys, welcome back to another lovely trading video. In this one we're going to be doing some stock analysis on Netflix, ticker NFLX. Now, why are we doing stock analysis on this? That's because it's very overbought and is coming into kind of low risk short areas or great areas to start looking at profits if you haven't already. So just to quickly go on a long-term time frame, we'll have a quick look to see if there's any gaps we need to fill. And looking quite quickly, there is no key areas of gaps that haven't already been filled. You see this gap's been filled, obviously that gap's been filled, this gap's been filled. All the key areas of gaps have been filled, so no point really looking at the gaps. However, if there are gaps that ever arise, obviously have a look at them because nearly every single gap will get filled. So just good areas to keep an eye on, because whether that's to the upside or downside, most likely the stock will retrace and cover that gap. Now, going on to standard deviation, where do we see Netflix going? Firstly, if we're on the 4 hour, you can see it's at the green deviation. This is the green deviation, and that is the third deviation. Third deviation means 99.7% of the data should be within the green barrier, so this one and this one. So obviously you can see Netflix is starting to push out, and as you can see, it pulled back the first time just touching the line. It then broke through the line and pulled back very quickly. Now we're testing it for a third time. So what's likely to happen? When a stock's hovering this much on a standard deviation, and that is kind of showing us that it's very bullish, and will most likely continue to the next level of resistance, and in this case that would be our next deviation is what we would be looking at. So to the upside, I do see this going higher, and I do see it struggling around this 608 level to around 614. That's personally the highest I see Netflix going at in the near future. I see it coming into this level and then having a heavy pullback. However, if it breaks through, what would be our even further price target, and that would be 633. Again, like I said, very unlikely that it would come to there, but probably a good idea to keep an eye on it. If it goes past 633, I can't give it any targets. Firstly, it would be very unlikely, so not much point. But if it broke through there, we have kind of no areas to be looking at. So it'd be more, you'd probably be looking more at psychological levels, so 650, maybe 675, and definitely 700. So that would be more psychological based if we break through that 633 level. Now, to the downside, where could we see buy targets? So these three targets I'm going to give, these are going to be bounce areas, so not maybe holding in for a long time, but may provide good swing or day trading opportunities at these levels. And those levels are 567 / kind of 568, then we also got 557, and then also 544. These will most likely all provide at least medium bounces, and by that I mean you would probably see a bounce to a half deviation. So if we come into this 567 area, 568 area, we would most likely get a bounce to right below 580. And again, if we come and bounce off at the 557, we would most likely get a bounce to our higher deviation, and in this case that would be 567. And again, if we come into the 544, where would we see the bounce? We would be seeing a bounce around 555 because that's a half deviation, and also to the full deviation of 557. So those would most likely all provide good small bounce opportunities for either day or short swing trades. Now, where would we see ourselves actually buying Netflix? If we're looking maybe more to invest in it, or do a longer term, maybe a few months swing, that would be coming into levels of $500. So that would be 497 on the lower end, and on a bit higher around 506. Those would be considered low risk buy areas on Netflix. If it did somehow crack through this area, which wouldn't be unlikely because when a stock, especially large cap stocks, get very overbought, you usually see it swing to an extreme and low, becomes very oversold before kind of returning to the mean. So it wouldn't actually be unlikely to retrace to this $500 level and actually continue further down. And if it did, we have key levels of around 473 to around 480, which would be considered good buy areas. Now, if it did break down further, which I do think would be quite unlikely, we will still give the price targets of around 450 and 455. At any of these levels from the 506 downwards, these are where we would consider good buy opportunities. I'm not looking just maybe for a day trade or a short swing trade, but could provide longer term, either multi-month swing trades, or even just if you're maybe looking to invest in Netflix, those would be considered good values where you're getting in at a low risk. So that's the overall breakdown on Netflix. Now I'll quickly explain what I see happening with the stock. So if you only want a price hike, there you go. If you kind of want to see my opinion of what I see happening with Netflix in the next few days and weeks, I will quickly run through that now. So as we can see, Netflix is at 592, and like I said at the beginning of the video, we are hovering on this deviation. So as we're coming back and testing this for the third time, it is more likely than not that we will continue higher. Because the buying pressure is still just there. So we will most likely break through, and that's where I'd be looking. We would most likely get a push to the whole 607 to around 615. That would be those key areas where I think then a lot more buyers would slow down and more selling pressure would come in. So key areas I'd be looking at is that, and that's where I would see a downtrend starting. Obviously, you can never always predict it, so if it did continue higher, the overall high I see it going to is 633. But if it did go that extreme, I personally wouldn't even be trading it because there's not as much sense in the stock, and maybe too many either institutions or retail traders that are just buying at too much of a premium, where I wouldn't even feel comfortable shorting it, because if it's gone that high, why can't it go higher? So that would be that key thing I'd be looking out for. And then, yes, when we get that bounce off, we'd probably get small bounces off these deviations, so we would have to include these as well, and most likely provide small bounce opportunities on that. But once we do hit off this 607, we would probably just start slowly or quickly breaking down. And again, I would just be waiting for a retrace to around 550. After that, we would probably break down lower, but our main price target would be 550. So that's the main overall thing I see happening with Netflix quite quickly. Also, if you want to have a look on the 4 hour, you can see it's starting to build a bit of a divergence. So if we see Netflix come into this 607 and still in a divergence, another strong indication that will be the end of the move. However, more people probably use it daily, and on the daily there is no divergence yet, so just keep that in mind. So hope you enjoyed the analysis on Netflix, hope that helped, and hope to see you in the next one. And that's it. Peace.